Today, we have with us David Horowitz from the Gold Leaf Frame Shop. I'm your host, Ann Kelly. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Yes. This is Gold Leaf Frame Makers of Santa Fe. My father started this business back in 1988. I'm the sole proprietor at this point because my father, unfortunately, is not with us anymore. Behind me, you can see we specialize in making historic reproduction picture frames. None of them are really old. They're just made to look that way. And we try to match all of our frames with the different periods that the art requires.
So
So
I was checking out the website earlier, and according to the website, you have 2,000 samples.
it's possible. Yeah, that sounds right.
Well, and one
See.
of the unique things that you guys are known for is that you hand carve and gild frames. And if you could come in, for example, and reference a part of the world and era that you wanted that frame to be inspired by. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Well, sure. Well, what we try to do with our frames is we try to pull them from examples as directly as we can. Like this frame here is it's a Palatine frame, and the Medici family had commissioned a whole series of frames like this to be hung in the Uffizi in Florence. And as far as we know, we're the only people that have ever hand carved one of these on the side of the ocean. And you can see here, this is all 22 karat gold on this frame. And
And this is
you can
all
see
being done in-house, which is kind of a rare thing as well, isn't it? Like a
yeah,
lot
it's
of
like
times you would
it's
carve
kind
at
of
one place and
like a really crazy thing, like manufacturing in the United States, especially in 2020, is very difficult. Um, it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of skilled artisans to make these things. So yeah, all of these techniques have been passed down since like the Renaissance, basically, like artist handbook. We make our own gesso, we make our own clay. Most of the gold is sourced from Europe or China. There are some American gold beaters still in existence. That's what we drink. You want to make sure that you're drinking only the finest quality gold so that you don't accidentally, poison yourself. So
right. So we're having a drink today on Art in the Raw, and David has a gold leafed cocktail. I'm at home, so I do not. I didn't plan that ahead.
yeah, we should have gilded it like earlier. When did I see you? Last week I actually saw you as a real person.
But you know,
Yeah.
I was reading earlier that apparently they were gold leafing cocktails back in the 16th century.
Well, the techniques that we do, the technique that we do to actually apply the gold is called water gilding, which
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, if you've seen something gilded or if you've gilded something, it's oil gilding. So you apply a size and it becomes tacky, and then you stick the gold to the surface of it. This what we're doing here is we're actually floating the gold on top of like a pool of water, and as the water evaporates and dries, it's reactivated the glue in the surface, and then the gold sticks to it. This is actually goes back as far as the Egyptians. It's a much trickier process, and it allows us to do some of the things that make our frames as pretty as they are is because of the fact that they're water gilded and not oil gilded. And it's basically not having that sticky glue layer in there to mess up everything. We can make everything shine a lot easier.
So being in the gallery business as long as I have, framing has become something that I've become knowledgeable about on a certain level, and more than that, kind of excited about it. So I love not just selling a piece of artwork, but also getting to help a client frame the piece, and not that I want to frame it, but bringing it over to Gold Leaf and talking to David and figuring out a great frame for it, because that's kind of the final aspect. So they don't just do the hand carved gilded frames over there. They will also make a standard black frame for my clients as well.
Yeah, because
So
as much as it's wonderful to adorn your frames and traditional to do it in gold, the most important thing with a picture frame is to make sure that the art is protected, and
mhm.
and that's protected like physically if somebody was going to walk into it or drop it, but also be it protected like archivally. So one of the things that we take pride in here too is also using like the highest quality of materials. So even if it's an inexpensive frame, that still means UV glass, it still means acid-free rag backing boards and stuff like that. so that your art won't deteriorate, and a lot of people too, framing's expensive, like no matter how you cut it, but a lot of people say, oh, my aunt made this piece, so it's not worth anything. And I tell people all the time, since your aunt made the piece, it's worth everything. It's irreplaceable. The sentimental value of it is far more important than the value of something that could be replaced. So we want to protect everything, whether it's in an inexpensive frame, as low as like or $15 a foot to $1,500 a foot for a molding or a picture frame, depending on how you look at it. It's just in a
Sure.
lot of ways it costs what it costs, and we do the best that we can because everybody has a budget restriction, like
Yeah.
never, or well, maybe once or twice does somebody come in here and say, I don't care what it costs, I just want to, I've had people that Palatine frame I was showing earlier. I had a wonderful woman come in and buy one of those frames in that size to hang in her house empty just because she loved the frame so much.
Wow.
But that happened one time with one lady. So I grew up in this business too. A little bit of history on me. I grew up in this business. I've been back at Goldley Frame Makers for 10 years now. It's 2020, right? So,
Mhm. It is.
and I started framing when I was 15, and I worked for other shops around town, and have done kind of every aspect of this throughout my growing up. I escaped for a few years, but Santa Fe in particular, and working with my wonderful family was what brought me back here. Multiple people in this building have worked here since I've been 8 years old. So
Which is kind of a very rare thing in this day and age. I think just working anywhere for that long.
right, and there's so many times that like we could have given up and probably should have given up or and didn't. This last year, this pandemic and stuff that happened too was almost revitalizing for me, and to speak on behalf of like my crew and stuff too. We really realized what it would be like to have to go on without doing all this crazy stuff on a day-to-day basis. The frames that
Mhm.
drive us crazy. I know like a lot of people, everything was closed down, and we saw that window into the other world of what it would be like if we just had an easy job or just went and made money. Like I
Mhm.
was like,
Mhm.
why do I work so hard and make so little? And I think that a lot of us artisans always say the same, well, it's for the art, right? It's because we
Right.
love it. It's because this is what we do. This is what makes us us. And then we still think, but why I work so hard and make such little money? And then
Well,
really
and that's what this show is all about, creative people doing things that they love to do. It's
right. And I think that a lot of we just have to do it.
Mhm.
I love the fact that this place is like now it's multi-generational, now it's family tradition, now it's all this stuff. But Roland, who we'll see in the back and stuff too, I mean his kids are 5 and 8. And I hope that when I'm 60, they'll be my age. Does that make sense? I think that actually makes sense. They'll be about my age when I'm in my early 60s. And hopefully they're the ones in the back, telling me uh telling me what's going on. So and
Yeah,
I can just
yeah.
be the old guy someday, knowing that there's another generation out there. So
And your father, Marty, I mean, he literally wrote the book on gold leaf framing. I mean, right?
yeah, no, intro to water. Actually, I have a copy. Let's see, can I walk and still frame? Probably. I just saw this was sitting on the table earlier today. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Why is Dad's book out? Introduction to
Perfect.
Water Gilding. No, for years this was it. This was knowledge that was passed down from like master to apprentice, and it was kept top secret. And there was all this hocus pocus alchemy shit. Like you had to tap on the frame, just right, and listen for the sound of the substrate to make sure that it was time to burnish the frame, and all of this shit that just he had to fight tooth and nail to get the information out of these old masters in New York, and then he wanted to make sure that not only was it accessible for other people, but that he actually went out and taught other people how to do that for years. So the whole sales angle on that too, if you're wondering, well, if somebody's making gold picture frames, like why would you just teach everybody else how to do it? Which
Right.
is basically like you teach everybody else how hard it is, so that they don't want to do it, and that they know how to sell it themselves, like from a framing wholesaling standpoint, whereas educating people to sell and design using real picture frames, which is a whole other aspect of our business. That's like a crucial part of it, is understanding how these things are made. And on our website, and you had referenced that video before though too, there's a video that goes through the whole process, and where you can go walk into the back and see the process in action.
Yeah, so that's coming up. We're gonna go in the back. We're gonna harass all of the employees, see what they're doing back there. Because I mean, this whole business, it's collaborative. You've got like you said, a wonderful staff. Some people that have worked there for quite some time, dedicated to their craft. They all play a role.
There's 10 of us or 12 of us, somewhere around there at this point. So yeah, it's definitely, we make 400 frames a year, somewhere around there. And if you think of how many days businesses are open and how they're all hand carved and all that, that's a lot. But again, fortunately, like being an artisan now, and I hope that this trend continues, is people seem to be really having a lot more like reaction and need for the trades, like bringing people, like actual real artisans into their home and stuff, because everybody's sitting at home staring at empty walls, or walls that need to be
Mhm.
painted, or broken fences, or whatever the hell it is. So
Or people realize they're tired of their art or don't like the frames that they have, or
yeah. Or I
yeah.
think that they've actually been getting mad and just breaking shit because we've been getting a lot of repairs in. I think
Well, that's possible.
everybody's been sitting at home too long, drinking too much and smashing things. So like, yeah, I've
So
just noticed that recently. I think it's the upcoming cold snap. Everybody's worried.
yeah,
Just
time to get some new things. And so yeah, like I said, all the time, I bring a lot of work into Gold Leaf to have framed, and they do everything from. So when we're talking about inexpensive frames, that means prefabricated, meaning that they're ordering it from pre-chopped, and
yeah,
it can.
length molding. A lot of people in the frame world, and I always found that funny when I started working in sales and stuff from this angle. People would call the frames that we make finished cornered frames. And I would always contest that, no, those are frames. Everything else, those are like chopped frames. So I always do approach everything from that angle. Here, I'll show you. But yeah, like you were saying, just because it's not a handmade gilded frame doesn't mean that it can't be a good frame. There we go. Okay, there. Look. Aha. See, so we've got colors, we've got glitter, we've got, there you go, your basic black photo frames, and all this stuff is still some of the best quality stuff that you can buy, but it's all, you know, length molding that has the miter and stuff in there. So affordable frames in the world of frames.
I hope someday I can come in and say I would like a frame from the 17th century in Italy.
Okay, well now I'm in France, but 17th
Okay, or
century,
Fran. I mean, I
kind of
just
close.
made that up,
Here's
but
a
I
nice
would.
Louis. Here's a nice Louis 13 continuous car with little flowers all over it. You know.
Because kind of part of one of the things you're interested in at Gold Leaf Frame Shop is pairing a piece of artwork with the right frame. So if a piece of artwork is from a certain era, that maybe a frame should match that.
Well, actually, yeah. So it makes it like a lot easier to frame and design frames if you look at the art that way. Like here's a piece, right? And um, this is a piece by our friend Bruce, but it's very Dutch in
Mhm.
style, and therefore we put it into a Dutch frame here. Actually, and I'll flip this camera around here and do that again, because like I know what. There we go. There's the better camera though too. So this is
Perfect.
in the style of like a Dutch painting, although he's not a Dutch man, he's from New Jersey. But
Mhm.
you take that style and historically you pair it with a Dutch frame here. This one has tortoiseshell inlays, key corners, and you can see how wonderful that little apple looks. Now, and I get that a lot too, because like I'll show people I'll show people gold frames on their artwork, and they've said, I didn't think I would like a gold frame. But traditionally, the gold was actually used to help bounce light off of different ambient sources onto the artwork. So the gold like actually illuminates a painting when
Mm,
when you put a frame on it that is covered in gold. So it'll
that's super
actually really
interesting.
brighten up the artwork, and it pulls your attention towards the artwork. Because you can do here's a really cool weird painting in an old frame that's falling apart, and it just has no life in it. The frame is just as part as just blah blah. excuse me, is just part of the just a part of the drapes in there. And it should really have a gold frame on it, not one of these gold frames. I don't actually know what to do with this painting here.
So did that client bring that piece in to have it refitted in a new frame that you guys will carve?
Yeah, we'll be doing something for it because this thing is just this frame is falling apart and not really worth the time it would take to kind of fix it. Here's another piece too, and again, I'll talk to you about using these shots with the artwork in it when I think about it further.
Sure.
This is a frame that's actually in for repair. It's been tarnished, and you know, we need to fix it up. Somebody got too excited about cleaning their own picture frame and wiped off the lacquer, and then the white gold tarnished. So
thanks. Well, shall we go in the back, see what's happening?
Yes, let's do that. Let's see what's happening in the back.
There's a lot of interesting things happening behind the scenes.
Yep, there's a lot of just stuff in this building though too. So
yes,
office area.
Office.
This is the office area. This is Marty's art. It's actually Marty over there on the mantelpiece there. This is his Michael Jackson casket that we that our friend Stacey had made for us, and we gilded that in 23 karat gold.
Well, it had to be gilded.
It had to be gilded. What was fun was that we actually ran out of the good gold. So we did it once, and you want to double gild stuff like that. So we went to gild it again, and he was actually in the urn. So we actually gilded him, which I know he would have appreciated.
I think so.
All right, here we go. Wood shop. Everybody's working. Here's Roland again.
Hey, Roland, what are you doing?
I am carving this small Spanish, Italian-esque frame.
Yep, this is what, probably, I don't know, 17th century, say, 16th century. It says our cracked gesso on it here. So this frame was just
is that for the same client? Did they provide the original frame and then?
Oh no, this is one of our corner samples. So this is
okay, gotcha.
This is off of our wall, and frame shops around the country have this in there, and they will sell it. This one we sold though too a while ago, and getting molding this year has been taking a really long time. So I don't know, when did you start carving this frame?
This morning.
Oh, this is this morning? Jeez, Roland.
Wow. So what kind of wood is that?
This is basswood. So we prefer to use basswood when we can. It's got a really consistent grain pattern and is relatively soft compared to most hardwoods. It's actually classified as a hardwood. So Roland, how long have you been at the shop now?
I've been here collectively about 16 years. I believe I've been in Santa Fe for 18.
16 years carving frames.
So it's basically all hand tools that you're using.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use we've got a shaper table and a table saw and stuff, but when it comes down to actual carving,
I do everything by hand.
As you can see, this is just a square piece of wood. Yeah, that's a nice shot. Here, extreme close up.
That's amazing.
So when Roland started working here, we only did very simple things compared to what we're capable of doing now.
I mean, this is, I mean, a lot of people don't consider framing art, but this clearly is. I mean, like you mentioned the story of the woman who just came in and bought a frame just to hang on her wall without art even in it. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the Palantir frame.
Yeah.
I mean, I would probably end up putting a piece of art in it Maybe not. I don't know, but I mean,
And you better have a nice wall behind it.
right. At least repaint the wall or something like that, right?
Yeah. That's so now you're getting he's getting the little veins in there. Gotta make sure I'm like looking through the camera that I'm not too close and I don't get stabbed over here.
I'll be careful.
So part of me was like, well, you do anything for 16 years and you might be good at it. But I mean, Roland is one of the most talented artisans I've ever watched work, even if it's brand new stuff. Like he's just been started doing, what do you call that? Leather tooling?
Yeah.
Yeah. And even just like Roland's first, like, oh, check it out. I was playing with this piece of leather yesterday. Like, holy shit, dude. Yeah, I got it out front. This is how an Italian frame is born.
Voila.
So how long do you anticipate carving this particular frame? You said you just started it today.
We'll probably finish it in the morning.
Wow.
And then it will go into preparation for gesso.
So kind of like when you stretch a canvas, you would gesso that canvas so that the paint doesn't seep through the canvas, and it's kind of is it kind of a similar thing with
Well, the
gessoing
gesso
the frame?
basically disguises the wood.
Mm-hmm.
So when it gets gilded, it looks like it's solid gold or a piece of material. It's alchemy of the wood into gold.
Here's another frame that's getting prepped for gesso. This is Grace. This is another Spanish frame here. So here we go. But Grace also started on this one this morning. So Grace has been working with us for 3 years. And is painting in every spare moment of her time. All right, so you asked tools and stuff though too, a bench sander. You can see this guy over here. Cutting miters on our dedicated frame square. Do you mind if I film you, Dylan? Okay, if you say no, yeah, we'll cut you out if you cut your finger off, because that would be too gory. Wouldn't make it. So yeah. So this is one of the specific tools of the trade, the frame square frame saw that only cuts at that magic angle.
So we're mitering the corners.
Yeah. So more so than mitering this corner, this was let's see here. So this is a maple frame, and we don't just have molding for this. We go to Alpine Lumber down the road, and we pick out each board of maple for each frame, and then it's milled into the molding that we make into the frame here. So
We're lucky to have Alpine here in Santa Fe. They have so many amazing, just different types of wood and right.
They have really, really good fine quality lumber. We were just looking at that earlier. Here's some cherry wood that we bought. So these frames here, they're hanging backwards, but these will all have their sides masked off, and then we'll be able to gild the face of them so that you'll have just like the white gold or a yellow gold face. Oh, something's being sprayed. Wait, let's see what's happening in here.
Wow.
Claire's gonna spray gesso. Okay, wait. Did you done? Are you done already? Oh, we missed you spraying? Well, it's loud as shit in here anyway, so. So this frame here was just sprayed in gesso. One of the only differences that we have between, oh, hey, thanks. That's Claire. She's been here for a year or more.
Yeah, great.
It's Grace's sister. Grace made me hire her before we even met because they both came out of the Kansas City Art Institute, which is a fine establishment. Claire's a sculptor and a ceramicist. That is a word that you say, right?
Yeah.
I was a very talented artist and a very happy addition here. So this frame has just been sprayed. Again, we're covering up the wood grain here. Roland carved this last week, I don't know, Thursday, Friday. Really simple impressionist carve that will soon be gold. So this frame's actually going to get gilded tomorrow. It's kind of on the fast track. We were behind waiting for some molding. Here's another contemporary frame here. And what you can see on the table is all the months on the table, and on the wall here is about 14 or 15 years of overspray cleaning out the guns at this little cooking station back here. So
Looks like a cave or something.
it gets sprayed in gesso, then it gets sanded. And here's a frame in process. Because what's really nice about this gesso here we go. So this is the calcium carbonate, is like super soft. And I mentioned earlier that we just use calcium carbonate and water and some hide glues. And that's it. That's all that's in it. So it's not like if anybody's sanded stuff, like if you've ever sanded store-bought gesso, it gets really gummy and gross. This won't do that because there's nothing synthetic about it. It's all just natural ingredients. Here, let's see. Then we come into this room. And this frame was just gilded today. This is a reeded Whistler frame. So late 19th century. And it's actually like still wet right now. You can see the way that the gold is spanned across these little gaps in the molding. So this frame is one of three over here that here now zoom camera zoom. Okay, so we've got actually three of these things hanging up. All of these frames over here are waiting to be gilded.
How long does it take those to dry?
Overnight.
Okay,
You-
so
you
that
can get a-
one, that frame that's on the table tomorrow, they'll come in and make some final adjustments, and then it'll be ready to send over to Slade.
Yeah, more or less. These ones are actually getting shipped to where do these ones go? I don't see a ticket anywhere. These ones are getting shipped out. Like this frame here is getting shipped out. And it will all seem to go. Here's a corner sample over here. There's still like a bit more process. Like first we need to burnish portions of the frame using these agate stones, and then we got to patina it so that it, we give it give it its age depending on, say, trip and fall over there, depending on the period. So this is, let's see, here we go. So here's the actual corner sample for this Whistler frame here. So you can see by the time we're done with it, a mixture of burnishing the high points and leaving the low points matte, and then like abrading it and putting washes and stuff on it, you can actually kind of see, you can see what's happening here as opposed to over here, which is still raw, because the gold itself is actually like so shiny in most cases. Because we're not just like illuminating paintings off of like candlelight, we try to knock them back a little bit, again, to replicate that period. Like this frame up here is a beautiful French frame. It has this is real patina. So this thing's hundreds of years old here. And you can see the way that it looks over time. So we leave these things up to look at them and to try to match them and be inspired. Like this one back here too, old Louis XV frame. Beautiful carves and swoops. Again, replication corner samples. We've got just stuff laying everywhere. This is our shipping department, drum kits and crates and all sorts of stuff over here.
So yeah, a lot of these you're carving and then just shipping the frame itself, and then it's getting fit wherever it's going.
About a third of our art, unfortunately, we don't know where it's going. But a lot of stuff here. Here's Slade hiding behind a coiled rope.
Hi, Slade.
So this is local artist Carlos Carullo. And this is one of our cherry sides with the 22K face, high burnished gold frame on it. And Slade is tasked with handling the art.
And
what
that
you
is
see
a big
now-
piece.
Yeah, and he's got these clamps set up. So this is a floating fit. So this is a tricky operation here because he's actually screwing through the panel in the back of the frame into the canvas. This is what it looks like under Slade's table.
Yeah,
How long have you been screwing in canvases for us, Slade?
3 years.
3 years.
But the nice thing about this piece is there isn't any glass or acrylic that you're having to battle with to keep all of the
Yeah.
dust out, right?
Right, exactly. These are easy.
We've got our special, wait, look at this. Our called an ionizing gun for our plexiglass. It makes 7,000 volts, and it actually somehow, what does it do? It shoots ions at the plexiglass, so it distributes the static electrical charge, so it blows away the lint simultaneously. And try to have the best tools.
No, you've got a lot of amazing tools and an amazing crew back there. A lot of the people that work at Gold Leaf Frame Shop are artists that create artwork outside of the frames. Is that?
Yeah, that's true. I think like everybody here from, painting, sculpture, ceramics, just carving. Cassidy, you didn't get to meet today. Well, you met beforehand, but she's a comic book artist. Everybody is just really talented here. It's really fantastic. And with like we were playing around making prints the other night, doing transfers and this sort of thing. There's like somebody usually on staff that knows what they're doing. So it
Mhm.
makes it like you can just like kind of like ask around here for a few minutes and you'll find somebody with the knowledge to help you out with the project that you're trying to accomplish. It's really wonderful that we all get to work together. One of the biggest perks that we have for the people that work at the shop is that like, this is all studio space. So everybody's got keys, everybody can come in and make their own art afterwards and stuff. So we try to make the workshop that we make frames in, like as much as we all love making, love frames, or we're frame nerds and stuff like that too. Like we try to make this whole place a place to share ideas and to again learn from each other and to actually have a space to use and work and use the tools or use the information that we learn from each other. So a fantastic place to be.
Great. It's a great community.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of people that have stuck around making frames for a lot longer than maybe they should have because they didn't they didn't want to leave everybody else here. And then there's a lot of people that like it gets really tough too when you find somebody that really wants to make frames or really wants to do this kind of work, but then you put them in a room with like 4 other people for 40 hours a week and they don't get along. Like
Mm.
that doesn't really work out very well. Like, oh well, it shouldn't be about personality and stuff, but if anybody's ever worked in a studio with people, like there's definitely that aspect to it too. Like, so it's tough, but Santa Fe is a really great place to
And you
find
were
people.
doing a gallery in the front for a while, right?
Yeah, we had Gold Leaf Gallery up and running.
Yeah,
I
and I
think
know
we
you
did it.
had a show of Roland's work and a
Yeah,
lot
we
of
did
other.
Roland Ostheim and Leah Anderson, who were both employed here. They had a group show, and that was a year ago, I think, because that was like fall equinox,
Was that a year ago?
2019. Yeah,
Mhm.
so that was cool. That was a nice thing to offer them as offer them an actual show for people to come to here. We haven't been doing the gallery thing as much as well. Now it's a virus and stuff too, but we had stopped. We had like closed it down last winter. It was like too much to keep up with in the midst of everything else, with the just running production and stuff like that. So as you know, it takes a lot of time to run a gallery. So
Yes.
it's
I mean,
like we tell artists too. A lot of artists try to make their own frames, and say like stop doing that. Go like go make art. Your time is much better spent making your art than making frames. Leave the frame making up to the frame makers. And see that too. Like our name Goldie Frame Makers is like again it's a picture frame shop, but we're not just picture framers. Like we actually are making this like some. A lot of times you go to a frame shop and they can't even like make you a frame deeper if you want it deeper. Not to mention like, oh, you like the 3-inch frame, we'll just make it at 5 inches. Well, it's
Right.
cool. We'll just like, shape it by hand and carve it that way. That's no big deal. Money permitting, of course, because there's anything can be accomplished again, if you're willing to invest in the artisan services that we offer. So
Right. I think a lot of times people think of like, okay, I bought the art and then the frame is kind of almost goes into the shipping category where it's the thing people don't want to spend the money on necessarily, but I think it's just understanding what all is involved. And
right, and a lot of galleries and stuff that we work with will do, they'll, you know, if they're dealing in old paintings and stuff from 150 years ago, 200 years ago, whatever, the good galleries, what they do is they actually have everything restored or conserved by a painting conservator, say, and then have it reframed so that it looks its best and that it's showing as much of the painting as can be seen, and that it all is fit in the frame properly, or if it's paper, that it's all archival and stuff. And then those galleries will sell the art that way. And like those galleries are the ones that make more money than any of the other galleries, because like the actual consumer, they're already paying for it. And I deal with both people. I have galleries and I have people that buy from the galleries that also buy from me for other objects and stuff too. And they are completely understanding of the fact that like they don't have to do anything when they get you know, they buy a piece and it's framed and it's archival and it's like ready to go. It's been conserved, and there's no question about whether or not they're going to have a problem with the surface down the line and stuff, because, you know, high-end art is really, really expensive. Again, that's where we come in. I always say that we at least live in the basement of the king anyway. The frame
so,
maker who's called to court to you know.
so working at Gold Leaf, you get to see a lot of art. Do you have a particular, like a favorite type of art or a favorite artist? You've also built up you've built up an art collection. Do you have a favorite piece that you own as part of your collection?
Well, geez, I have so much art that I own. I guess I see a lot of art, so I have a lot of things that I can just, and I have the ability to like touch and poke around and do all this stuff and say like, oh, I like this one thing and I don't like something else. I'm also like kind of an opinionated person, so it makes it
Sure.
easier for me to say that. But you know, a lot of it. See you, Roland.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Roland.
Thank you. You well.
Or was I? Oh yeah, a lot of the difficulty I had with the gallery was like selling art, because art sales can be so arbitrary. Like, why is something valued a certain way when something else isn't? Or I mentioned that earlier with somebody who has a sentimental piece of their family's, like, why is that valued less than, you know, a Picasso or whatever? Which of course, like some of that's ridiculous. Some artists are just amazing and have done stuff that nobody else has ever done. Like, I was just looking at a Cruz Chubb, and it was an artist that I was just turned on to, and I had never seen his stuff. And maybe I just don't know. I haven't heard of this guy. He's, you know, mid-30s or whatever. Really cool painter. And I mean, obviously this guy is not like some nobody guy, but you know, I find artists like that all the time, that I'm just like fascinated with what comes in here. And so much of the time it's somebody that nobody's ever heard of. So I just I go with I like it if I like it. And when it comes to like obtaining art, I do when I can. And when it comes to inheriting art, I have a whole frame shop with this is since 1988. People have been leaving miscellaneous paper pieces, or I have a giant painting of buffalo grazing in a field that hangs in my dining room of my house, because somebody like tried to pay their bill with it back in 1991. So I've got no shortage of too much stuff to look at around here. So
Are there any artists who you hope to one day obtain a piece by? Maybe somebody that just really speaks to you, but hasn't happened yet.
I mean, like, okay, let me think about like something that's
And
in
it could be
the
anybody
realm
because we're just
of
like, it could be,
in the realm of reality. Like, I
yeah.
love Modigliani, but I think that that's like probably like a bit far out there. No, I mean, one of the more recent things with that though too was the artist that you represent over at Photo Eye, which is Ruben Wu, who I really liked his photographs. He needed frames, and I was framing him for you, and then I traded him frames to frame to put in the gallery. So at least being a frame maker, it's like I've got something to barter for the most part. And usually when it comes to like local people and stuff like that, there's usually a way to find something and work it out. Like the old school hand carving and gilding picture frames, like the barter system is really nice for
Joy,
that.
is there a
And
current soundtrack at the Gold Leaf Frame Shop? Like, what's everybody listening to there now? Is that like
current
a collaborative thing, or are people listening to their own music?
It depends. It depends. What I did on that front, though, which is pretty exciting. Here, I'll take another walk so I can show you this. Is that I just decided recently to start a parallel record collection for the shop,
Cool.
and I have a pile of boxes in front of it at the moment because dealing with stashing a bunch of art, but they're new shop vinyl. And yeah, we've been just going around collecting it. Slade has a record buying habit that I think he's pretty much addicted to buying vinyl at this point. So he's
Nice.
constantly going over there, and then he'll slip stuff into my crate here. Oh yeah, see Frank Zappa though too. Also, if you go over to what's the name of George's shop? Los Padres Records over in Solana Center. You'll see some framed band posters and stuff in there. They were all done out of this place. And again, like I was talking about the barter system earlier, that's where I got my Beyonce album, which is one of the few that has actually come. Which is one of the few albums, I guess, and maybe that's a good one that's been in my head a lot lately, that has come from my house and ended up at the shop in the shop bucket. Because mostly I'm just trying to, there you go, Herb Alpert's Tijuana Brass, trying to do that. Oh yeah, see, like this one goes back though too. Having a shared stereo growing up with a bunch of old punk rockers and stuff when I was a teenager, like turned me on to a lot of bands like Fugazi, like not the Beatles, I guess I had already heard the Beatles. There's Bobby D. Nobody wants to listen to the Jay Giles band, but
I'm
But
so
actually,
glad
yeah,
I
I mean,
asked.
yeah, see, I had a whole show and tell there. No, actually, sharing music though has been like a big part of this place. Especially it used to be. Now we've got four stereos, I want to say. Now that this is we're in 7,500 square feet. Oh, look, if I stand right here, then I have a halo over my head. There we go. And a weird little cherub thing. See now, and a tank and some bullets. Okay, there we go. See now, like no matter where you look in this building, though, you always find fun stuff. See, oh wait, no, I've got. Oh wait, which way do I go? Oh, there we go. The AK-47 halo.
Yeah. So you got a lot. There's a lot of Marty art.
There's a lot of Marty. This is one of my favorites. That's the shroud off a nuclear warhead right there. The gold-plated thing in the background, next to the Shriner's cap and the hand grenades. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of just, like I was saying before, like when I need a new piece of art, I don't need to look very far, because there's just paintings everywhere.
You are surrounded by it, and how
Surrounded by
lucky is
everything.
anybody? Yeah, or I don't know, if you love art and you're surrounded by
Right.
it.
No, this is the the best place to work if you love art. So we'll
Nice.
show some examples here. So like this frame is actually, you can see how that design is raised off the surface. I think that's coming through.
Yeah.
That's this is an Italian technique called pastiglia. And what we do is we mix the gesso with honey and paint it onto the wood before we apply the gesso. And the honey actually, for whatever reason, makes the gesso extra hard, and it stands up through the gesso being applied on top of it, and you can see the design that you painted on underneath it. So that's like really cool, crusty old technique. Here's some more pastiglia. Get a focus. There we go. And you can see, and then actually in this area in between, we've gone through with a little punch and a hammer and hammered in that texture to make it. So yeah, No, so these are really fun. The older and grosser was like, so you can imagine this frame here is hung next to a fireplace for, a couple hundred years. And you've got the crackle on the surface, and you got the creosote sitting in all the lows and everything. So, you have to have fun, and you have to tell yourself the stories and go through the journey with the frame, because again, it's art.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the
Well-
next step would be to actually go like rob old European barns of their wood, and then you can carve it into the old barn wood, and then
Mhm.
you can really start to sell some expensive frames then. We had an art smuggler and forager in here one day who's trying to tell me how to fake carbon tests by baking pigments.
Wow.
I could say, well, that's really cool to know. He was really complimentary of our cracked gesso, but I was like, but we make, reproduction frames. Like you look at the back of one of our frames and it says what year it was carved. So yeah, we're not trying to fool anybody.
Right, you're
Ultimately,
able to replicate, but you're not trying to rip anybody
we're
off.
not trying to say that. Yeah, this is a real Italian frame.
You never know who's
Yes.
going to walk in some days, right?
Unless you speak with the Italian accent. You have to.
Yeah. And your dad, Marty, did he start this in New York or in Santa Fe originally?
It was in New York. He had started. The company was called Rothman and Horowitz, and it was with his old mentor, who taught him how to make the high-end frames back in the 70s. So he had done that for a while. Then he ran a bunch of large operations in New York City. Then he did other stuff for for a little bit. Then he started working at with his old mentor right around the time I was born, and for a few years. I don't know, it was 5 years or something like that in New York. So he'd gotten sick though. He had pneumonia. So like the old tuberculosis days, he was sent out by the doctors to New Mexico so that he could like dry out his lungs and breathe again. And then that's how my family was here. And yeah, my dad, it was 88. So I was 3, my brother was 6 or 7, and my sister was going to be born like a year later. They just were like, nope, go to Santa Fe. So
Well, I think historically a lot of people moved to Santa Fe for that reason.
yeah. Oh yeah. No, there was definitely, between the altitude and like this summer, the really dry climate.
Mhm, mhm.
There's like no mold here and stuff too. He was like a mold smelling truffle pig or something. Like you could, it was great when I was buying a house and stuff too. He's like walks into a place like, oh, it's clean.
It's safe.
It is one spore. Yeah, he would have been sick. So
Yeah. Well, he started an amazing thing and and you've kept up this amazing tradition, and it's been so great working with both of you over the years. Where did you go to art school? I don't think I know that story.
I went to the University of New Mexico, and I have a degree in scenic design for TV and film and theater. The theater. I didn't realize that at the time. I was kind of an undeclared major that
Mhm,
found a wood shop on the UNM campus and found a family with those weird theater folks.
mhm.
That I didn't really, yeah, I hadn't realized it until later that probably the part of the attraction to working in a theater was because of growing up working at Goldleaf. Like so
Mhm.
many hands making one. I mean, not to mention just like the proscenium of a stage and the picture frame around a picture, but like so many hands working together. Because you saw how many people are back there, even on like that's like half the staff,
Yeah.
Sometimes 5 or 6 people will touch one frame to make one single piece. In
Mhm.
putting on a production, like whether it was opera or film or whatever, was all the same sort of thing. Many people just working together for the same concept, which I find really cool. Somebody's got to design it, somebody's got to steer the ship, somebody's got to do the research, but then it makes way more sense to have every step of the way, whether it's being carved or sanded or gilded, to have the expert in that niche just do it, and that way you can actually You can do a lot of big stuff really quicker than anybody would think was possible, or a lot more things than one would think you could do, because everybody's really good at what they do. Well, like here we try to cross train everybody so they can do everything, but definitely people find their niche, find the part that they're really good at. So,
Yeah, no,
and I'd rather-
collaboration is amazing, because even if somebody is cross-trained, people are just going to be better at certain aspects of it.
right. Like I said, working with people, or now in like my job as I direct people, I tell them what to do, right? So
Mhm.
it's like if somebody new starts working here, and it's not, me alone or whatever, it's in conversation. But I mean, like after all these years though too, it's like because a lot of times too, people start working and they think they want to do one thing, and then they're better suited to do something else. And it's weird
Sure.
when somebody, you give somebody, oh, here's how you make a frame, this is the whole thing, so I showed you, right? You know how to make a frame now. I think that one thing seems appealing, and then when you get into it you realize that it's really not. Or some people, they really want to carve a frame, but they're not, that's not where their talent lies. And it's funny too,
Mhm.
because like the frames, I guess, find their people, or people find their own part of whatever it is that they do, and best they do it. And I don't know, some of it's like, okay, well, we don't have a gilder, somebody needs to step up and be the gilder or whatever. But a lot of it
Yeah.
just kind of happens, and has to happen over years, and sometimes decades. And people start working here, and we just immediately write off for the first 6 months. It's like, okay, well, try to figure out how to sand gesso. See if you can actually get a surface to accept gold appropriately. And in the meantime, we'll try to see what skills you've got and what you're good at, and we'll throw stuff at you, and we'll see where you end up, and what we need, and what you're willing to try to do. So it's really kind of cool the way that, yeah, it's like the master apprentice sort of thing, but it just has to happen. And a lot of people though too, we'll get a lot of people right out of school and stuff, and they think it's like signing up for picture frame class. Like, oh, gesso semester is done now, is it time to take carving? It's like,
Right.
it's like, no,
No.
this is a business that we need to actually pay everybody.
Mhm.
So that's
Mhm.
the reality of it at the end of the day, is like, to do something like this and to make it a business, you have to be able to draw that line. And it's, yeah, it's tough sometimes, but that's what makes it what it is.
Yeah, it's being in an artistic medium and running a business. And speaking of, episode 3 of Art in the Raw is with my buddy Greg Robertson, who's a stone sculptor, and he has a background in theater as well. So I think you might enjoy that one.
What
And then
kind of
this
thing?
one, and then this one hasn't aired yet, but my friend Nicole Iannacone, she's in Dallas right now. She's working in the theater right now as a lighting designer and technician.
Where's
But
she at?
she's at the Dallas Theater Center.
She
They're
was
working on right now an adaptation of A Christmas Carol. So we filmed an episode about that the other day, and that's going to be out in a few weeks. But the crazy thing about that is so she's been in the theater business for over 20 years, but this is the first ever production where they're actually creating it with the purpose of streaming it, because
interesting.
of we're all adapting. And we've got that drive-in movie theater that have you checked out any of those yet?
No, I have a really nice couch.
Yeah, I went to one. It's
I
kind
was
of
worried.
fun.
I don't know, and I'll see now, like now that I'm looking outside and it's snowing, it's really like the thought of staying at home to me is nice. Like in the winter, I love the snow. And
Mhm.
I said we've been fortunate because we've had to brave our gold leaf bubble to be with people. So at least I get to see people on a regular basis, because we can't be doing what we're doing back there remotely, because we're all working together on one frame. So we tried,
Right.
when we were shut down, we had people working remotely, and we were transporting stuff in your pickup truck, and we were bringing stuff in, bringing stuff out, and like that kind of, it worked for shutting down for the virus. But now that we're busy again, it just is not, it's not
Mhm.
conducive, because there we had like a shutdown plan. Now we're trying to be busy because for a lot of reasons we need to stay in stay in business. So
Yeah. Keep
at least
everybody.
they have medical grade masks and stuff available again,
Right.
which I felt bad because I didn't have any of the right safety equipment for a while. I hope that we learn. I hope we learn something from all of this. I hope there's still a strong demand for me and my artisan fellows. I don't know about, obviously the theater is really tricky. Anything like that, I have a feeling that they'll be able to figure out, as far as film goes, a way to make that sort of stuff viable. Yeah, because part of the beauty of the theater is going to the theater, right? But yeah, I don't know. A long, scary winter. I'm glad that you're creating entertainment for people to watch.
Well, basically, I just want to
I
keep
only know where to
everybody
watch.
inspired is kind of my MO.
Yeah, no, and I don't know if I can do my part and keep us here and at least keep us safe, but keep us like making frames and staying in business and stuff like that too.
Mhm.
We'll all weather the storm. So
Yeah, we've got to stay inspired, connected, and all of that. Before I let you go, because you've still got to drive home and it's snowing, which
I do.
I'm all about.
It's almost
So
6
we're
now.
talking about entertainment and how much you enjoy hanging out on the couch at home. Do you have a favorite movie? A current favorite movie, all-time favorite movie?
Well, one of my favorites that I just revisited, which was a fantastic experience, was I Heart Huckabees. So I do love that movie. It's very, very funny.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen I Heart Huckabees. Okay,
I
see, look, there
haven't.
we go. See,
See?
this is why you're asking. You're just asking this.
Well, no, I'm going to
So you take
create,
a break before the editing begins. You can.
yeah, no, I'm going to create actually a suggested movie list from all the guests of Art in the Raw. I don't know. Why not?
Okay, yeah. So definitely I Heart Huckabees. My all-time favorite movie is it's Jurassic Park, I think, because I watch Jurassic Park at least twice a year. So it's got to, I mean,
Part
there's a lot of
one?
movies huh?
Part
For
one?
fun?
No,
Oh yeah,
how
the
many?
first one.
There's so many. Which Jurassic
You watch
Park?
that movie for fun? No,
Well, I assume, but
okay.
there's like 7 Jurassic Parks at this point. I don't
No,
know.
only the first one counts. Only the first one counts. It's good old classic Spielberg. Back when an hour and a half movie was an hour and a half. I mean, back when back when a movie was an hour and a half, and you didn't have to. I also have like I said, I have a really nice couch. So I have a problem falling asleep on my couch.
Mhm, mhm.
So I got to be able to make it through them. But yep, character development, conflict, man, action, beautiful spectacles.
Well, thank you so much, David, for joining me tonight and for your whole crew that was available to show us what
Yeah.
they're doing and everything. And for everybody watching, keep the conversation going. Please like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends, and stay tuned for suggested movie list from creative people, because
Right on.
that wasn't something I intended to make. I'm going to write it down and I'm going to
Yeah,
share
wow.
it, because a lot of nights you're at home hanging out on the couch and it's hard to decide what you're going to watch. Well, careful driving home in the snow,
Yeah,
David.
it looks pretty clear out there. I think we'll be all right.
It's supposed to snow for a few days now.
Thank you.
Thank you, and cheers, and I'll see you soon.
Cheers.
Yes. Others, is that Slade behind you?
Yeah.
Cheers, Slade. All right. Well, have a good night, and
Okay.
thanks for all, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Talk soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So we're gilding a drink.
Yep, for cocktail hour. This is 23 karat gold, made in the USA, or at least beaten into little squares in the USA. So this gold here is 1/250,000th of an inch thin. There we go. Now,
Cheers.
cheers.